We're still admitting people in, my God. Wait. Esto Cuban Hispanic time, porque mira, admit participants.
Caribbean.
Waiting. Allie? We have to admit some people more. Okay. But we're ready.
Usted ha visto,
Yeah.
que Lester tiene de background, tiene una foto del puerto.
Está volando.
Gracias, Lester.
Buenísimo.
Está en un avión.
Ay, Dios santo.
Piloto, él es piloto. Él es capitán.
Oh, yeah, well, I think we're going to start, right? We have people still waiting?
Aquí
Well, we'll let them in as we start.
Ahí la cambió.
No, Rolando Racing. So anyway, yeah, we're going to let people in, but I think we're going to start, yeah, just because it's already 11:04. So I really want to thank everyone who's, well, connecting, and we have a lot of people connecting. On behalf of the South Florida Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, our chair, Felipe Basuto, who couldn't be here with us. We have our chair-elect, Roland Sanchez Medina, who Thursday will become the chairman of the board. So welcome to this webinar. It's the roadmap to restarting Miami's travel, transportation, and cargo industries webinar and conference. I want to thank our media partners, Diario Las Americas, Ana Bringas, and also Univision, always present with us. I know that Angela is here. She's going to say a few words. Angela, how are you? You have to unmute yourself, if possible. Can you unmute yourself, Angela?
I just asked her.
Yeah.
Okay,
There you go.
now?
Yes, we hear you. Hi.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Congratulations. Good morning. This is a really important topic, though. This webinar today. I think the travel industry and hospitality is the engine that drives South Florida, and we really need to figure out a plan to make it work with all of the current challenges. As media, you know, our job is to support your efforts. So whatever it is that you need to be able to make this happen in a safe and positive way, just don't hesitate in reaching out. I want to congratulate Lilian, thank her very much for, and all of the board of directors of the chamber for coordinating these webinars, and all of the participants, Vice Chairwoman Rebecca Sosa, everyone involved today, Roland. I think it's a great thing. This has to start here, but continue, because I think it's going to be kind of a long road for the next few months in trying to get travel industry back on track. So thank you very much. And we continue supporting these great webinars for the benefit of our community.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Univision. Thank you, Claudia Puig, for that great support that you guys give us. So we really are thankful and appreciate it very much. And our panelists, my God, we have Lester Sola, the director of MIA. And MIA, it's an airport dear to our heart. I mean, right in Lejeune. To think that when I was a kid, ya eso se acababa allá. Miami se acababa en Lejeune. And then now it's right in the center of our city. And it's just, it's an icon. I mean, just passing by and just hearing all the airplanes, es una cosa que fills my heart up and it warms my heart up. So it's one of the largest airports and busiest airports in the United States. And so we're very privileged to have you here today. And then we have also Mr. Juan Curilla, who's the director of Port of Miami. I mean, the cruise capital of the world. What can I say, Juan? I mean, I admire all the work that you guys do. Can't wait to be on a cruise, just so you cruise, or we do an annual chamber cruise. So my God, I just miss those cruises so much. And then last but not least, Vice Chairwoman Rebecca Sosa, who's been a commissioner, an elected official for at least 20, 21 years. No, I think more, because in the county's been 20 years. Before you were mayor.
30 years.
30 years, imagínate. Rebecca's been 30 years serving the community, and she's a lady that I admire very much. She received awards from the South Florida Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and I'm so honored that she accepted our invitation. So, my gosh, esto es un panel de lujo. It's fantastic. So thank you so much. And now I'm turning this over to Roland Sanchez Medina, who's our chair-elect. As of Thursday, will be the chairman of the board, who is on vacation, actually, and his commitment to this chamber, mira, está aquí con la vista al mar, but he's dedicated to helping our community, and everyone who's joining us, please, thank you so much. And we have a lot of webinars for you coming up. So thank you. And Roland, it's yours.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna, I think it's important to briefly introduce each of you. I will tell you on behalf of Felipe Basuto, the current chair, and Lily Lopez and the rest of the board, you know, we're honored to have you participating on this. I don't know any other organization that has this kind of power with respect to cargo and transportation issues. And so thank you very much. It's a wonderful benefit to our members. Juan, I'm just going to go in alphabetical order. Juan, you know, I know that you started in Parks and Recreation in 1987. You quickly became head of one of the sections, and I think what I read around 1998, you started with the port, and then by 2014 you became the chair. And so much has happened in those 6 years. I remember the dredging that's happened, and of course we're all known for being the largest cruise port in the world. And the passengers are important, but obviously cargo is important as well too. And so thank you very much for participating. And as you mentioned before we got involved, I think we ended up in grade school to tell you what a small world Miami is. I will also tell you that all three of the members they're Miami kids. I mean, they're Miami people. Juan's got both of his undergraduate and master's degree from Florida International University. So they're people that are obviously invested in this community. Lester, it just seems a few months ago, I mean, it seems a lifetime ago now that we were in your office in February. Obviously, a lot has changed since then. And thank you for your courtesies back then. And obviously, like I said, we'll get into some of the more substantive issues, but you're actually, from what I gather, you've been with the county for 28 years, Juan for 33 years. I mean, you guys are institutions. And frankly, we're lucky to have all of you. And I noticed in reading your bio that in addition to having a bachelor's and a master's in public administration, and I think this is extremely important, you have a minor in organizational psychology. I imagine that's needed, especially in today's world. And by the way, I added some quick numbers. Between the 32 billion and the 27 billion economic impact, roughly $60 billion of economic impact by the aviation department and by the Port of Miami. The numbers are incredible. In terms of jobs, 275,000 jobs, direct and indirect from aviation, 207,000 from the Port of Miami. So like I said, the economic impact is unbelievable. And as to the vice chairwoman, I mean, what do you say of a lady that's been the mayor of West Miami, chairperson of the commission, also serving, I think I heard roughly closely 30 years in public service. I took a chance to read a little bit of what the Miami Herald said about you, and it talks about the elegance and the decorum and the integrity with which you served, which, frankly, in today's world, it can go out without saying how it's sorely needed. And so thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And like I said, one of the things that stood out to me, because, you're such a presence, is the fact you graduated from college summa cum laude, which is extremely impressive. Anyway, let me get started with Juan. Juan, one of the things we wanted to talk about was the no sale order from the CDC. I think that it's going through, July 24th. But then I also read recently that the cruise line industry, which I thought we were hoping would start a little bit earlier, but obviously we have to be extremely careful in today's world. It seems like it's not going to get started until September 15th. And maybe you could talk about the impact on you, your plans, and obviously how you're facing these enormous issues.
Thank you, Roland, for the question. And first of all, I want to start by really thanking my lifetime friend, Lester Sola, who's on the call, and just let you know that we work together very closely in all these issues. But more importantly than Lester, and Lester's important, but more important than Lester really is that we're joined today by our chairwoman of the Ports and Tourism Committee and the vice chairwoman of the County Commission. And also, I got to tell you, to everybody that's listening, the most incredible, conscious supporter of trade and tourism and ports. Our own Commissioner, Rebecca Sosa, my district commissioner for District 6, Madam Chair, thank you for everything you do and for allowing us really to be in a position to be on these type of panels to talk about what it is that we're doing during these very difficult times. Madam Chair, as you know, the conversations that we've had, which I take the liberty of sharing with the group. Roland, this is a very difficult time. Lily, it's a very difficult time. That no sale order indeed has been voluntarily extended by the cruise lines. That message came out last Friday, and now through September 15th. So every day that we don't have a cruise ship here, really we're talking about thousands of additional jobs that are not being performed. It is devastating. It has taken a huge toll on the economy, not only, of course, on the financial side, but also on the morale side. People want to go out and people want to cruise. Cruising, we've always said, is the best bang for the buck. No matter what income level you fall under, there's a cruise for everyone. And right now we don't have it. The cruise lines, they want to be very diligent. They want to be prepared. They want to be ready that by the time they get going, that there's no 180 and they have to come back and fall under another no-sail order. So they're working closely with the CDC. We, of course, need the CDC to work with us, to work with the cruise lines, to respond quickly to proposals by the cruise lines. And the second part of your question, how we are managing the difficult times, we're very fortunate. We're very fortunate to have had a committee chairperson for many, many years, such as Commissioner Sosa, to support our legislation, to support our deals, right? Our agreement with the cruise lines, with the shipping lines, that by the time that they get to the county commission, pursuant to the support, of course, incredible support from our mayor, Carlos Jimenez, right? That these deals have generated a substantial amount of money for the port, allowing us to create a large reserve. And we might need to tap into it a little bit this year, but we're very grateful to have those reserves generated as a result of the endorsement of these very large cruise and cargo deals that we've had over the last several years.
One obvious question is, I think after we get through this, and obviously we will, is sort of a discussion about where those reserves should be in the future, right? I don't think that no one could have predicted this level. So I wonder in the future whether you got to sort of reset what is a reasonable number for reserves in the future.
No, absolutely. And one of the benefits of having reserves is the fact that when we go out and sell debt to grow, because the only way a port grows is by investing within its own port. It is always said by many, just about every CEO, whether it's cruise or cargo, a port that is not building something is a port that is not growing. And I'm guessing the same applies on the aviation industry. So by having a substantial amount of reserve, when you issue debt, your credit rating is better, the interest rates are lower, and then what does that do? It allows you to do more, right? Now, what we are going to be somewhat measured, very measured, as a matter of fact, over the last year, over the next year or year and a half, right, is how quickly our investment capital is going to be invested on the port. Right, and for that, no matter what, you still need reserves. So we're going to be measured on our calculations in terms of how many passengers, on how many TEUs, which ultimately is what generates the revenue for the port.
I'm gonna, and by the way, for Commissioner Sosa and for Lester, we want to make this a conversation. So during when someone's speaking and you want to certainly provide your very valuable 2 cents, please do so. And Juan, I want to come back with you regarding the cargo business and the automation of ports, but let me get talk discussion with Lester, because as I mentioned, we were there in February. You hosted the entire board, and you're looking at the numbers from Miami, MIA, and the other aviation airports. It's astounding, the level of revenues, the number of employees, and how have you been able to handle the difficulties during this pandemic?
Roland, I'll tell you, it's and thank you to you and to the chamber for having me and Madam Chairwoman Sosa and Juan to talk really about the importance of the two economic drivers for this community. And when we met a couple of months ago, we were talking about the record numbers of passengers, a new capital program, And while that may be delayed, recognizing that this pandemic has had a significant impact on the volume of people flying. For as an example, last year we had a record year of 46 million passengers. This year, I think we'll end up somewhere in the neighborhood of around 30 million passengers. That's a significant decline. But even during those declines, you have to still continue to go on and pursue the work. And pursuing the work, I'll give you a perfect example. Cargo. Cargo has actually been an area that has been growing during this pandemic. And it's important that we're able to shift as a community and be able to pursue work and basically impact to the community by bringing factors that create jobs. And I'll say this, last time we spoke, we were talking about a CIP to the tune of $5 billion. And Juan mentions it, how you have to continuously have to invest. Even during this time period, we're using monies that we have allocated for projects, of which the Board of County Commissioners under the leadership on this area of Commissioner Sosa have approved continuation of projects because, again, it continues to invest in the growth of that airport. The airlines need it, want it, and it produces jobs. And I'll say one thing about the investment. As a leader of this community, where it be the mayor, our commissioners, Juan, myself, you can't be adverse to risk. You just have to be smart to know when you can invest and where you should invest. So you want to make sure that you're managing those dollars wisely. You know, luckily, where the airport has significant amount of reserves, we're going to be able to weather this storm. But you have to constantly be able to prepare for your immediate future and your long-term future.
Well, you know, it's interesting you mentioned the cargo business, because I will tell you that in South Florida Business Journal, they came out with the charts of the three airports, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Palm Beach. And I noticed that in March, the numbers went up for MIA in terms of cargo business. And so in Fort Lauderdale took a significant hit, still going down. In Palm Beach, you know, which are, you know, very different location, obviously, than MIA, just a short decrease. Can you explain that? I mean, I'm looking at that, and is that all the hard work that Lester Sola's doing and everyone else?
No, it's not me. I assure you, it's not me. It's the team. But it's so you have to understand aviation, and not just aviation, but commerce, international commerce. So oftentimes people think that cargo arrives only in cargo airplanes, and when they're flying somewhere, that below them it's only the luggage in the bottom of the plane. That is not the case. In fact, the profitability of a lot of flights, a lot of routes, is really determined by the amount of cargo that's going in the belly of planes. So you have, for an example, electronics coming in from Asia or Europe overnight in cargo operations, and then they're loaded into the bellies of the planes, all going into the Caribbean and to South America. The fact that we have invested a significant amount in cargo operations really puts us apart from the Orlando International Airports, the Fort Lauderdales, or Palm Beaches. Why? Because we have a blend of cargo and passengers. So when those passenger planes went away because there wasn't enough passengers, you still needed to move the product. So what happened? Cargo operations at MIA expanded significantly, 19% in the month of March, 25% in the month of May. And we're gonna have, in all likelihood, a record year for cargo, because we're still at a pinpoint in our geographic location of culture, our ability to transact business, that we are a pivot for the transient goods that need to go in planes. So you'll continue to see that growth.
Let me ask you, Lester, is that something that you and Juan can work together on in terms of soliciting cargo, or is that something that you do on your own and Juan does on his own?
So in addition to the fact that Juan is he and I have a long-term county career, and we have really grown together, and he's been here a couple of years longer than I am because he's a little older than I am. We actually travel together, not just because we're lifelong friends, but because we recognize that we both work off of each other. In fact, Juan is the mastermind of a program that dovetails the seaport and the airport. I'll let him speak to that, because there's products that can move slower, but then there's products that need to move faster, but they're intertwined as to, depending on where they're at, what kind of movement needs to happen. So I'll let Juan speak with regards to the Air and Sea program that he's developed.
Okay, let me see.
Let me see if we unmute Juan.
Yeah, hold on just a second. That's strange. That one is muted. He was speaking a while ago. There we go. Hold on a minute. Here we go. I'm asking him to unmute. Okay.
There
Did
you
you
go.
try? There you go. Okay.
Seems like it worked, but first of all, Madam Chair, you know that Lester is not really younger than I. He looks younger, looks better. Looks better. You're a good-looking guy, very, very good-looking.
There's no age at this time. And
Thank you.
Lillian Roland, I want to thank you and the board of directors. I have to say that for me, it's a pleasure to work with two incredible professionals. Yes, they are institutions, but they are problem solvers. Having MIA in the hands of Mr. Sola and having Port Miami in the hands of Mr. Kurila is what makes a difference in our county. All I do is to help them with the pieces of legislation because they are real professionals. We sit down, we interchange ideas. I have to give it to Mr. Sola because at the airport, people need to understand that the port and the airport are ruled by the federal government in general terms. And the guidelines that exist today, we have to obey those guidelines. That's why their job is so easy, because to listen to the needs of the community today and to listen to the rules that are established, it's something that is hard. But the hardest part that they are gonna have, and the hardest part that we are all gonna have is, we need to talk openly about the safeties of the flights and the safeties of the cruise lines for the future, moving to the future. So people can understand what is being done for the future, so we can start going back to what might be foreseen as a normal life. And they have a big task ahead of them. And I'll be there to help the community. But it's good that the community, Lester, hears about the incredible demand in cargo in both MIA and the port that have been helping us to really face the problem. It's good that people know about the CARES Act, how it's helping the airport. It's not really helping a lot the port, but then how the port is making up for those differences. It's important that Mr. Kurila talks about how Port Miami has demonstrated to the cruise lines and the cargo that we are real partners to work and moving forward. We need to talk a little bit about the plans that the cruise companies are working on and the ideas that we have discussed about those plans for the future. And also, Mr. Sola needs to talk about the refrigeration system in the planes so people can know if it's safe to go on a plane, if it's going to be safe to go on a cruise, because of all the different mechanicals that those two things have for the safety of the future. But thank you for allowing me this opportunity. You have the best professionals that they really know what is needed in Miami.
I mean, I think that's obvious, and what's more obvious is the respect that they have for you, Chairwoman Sosa, and so that's really good. That's fantastic to see, because I mean, obviously, with everything we said, the impact in South Florida, in Miami-Dade County, is enormous. Juan, let me ask you that. I was reading about several large contracts you have with the RCLs and other large cruise lines industries that you probably had to look at the contracts and start discussing the force majeure clauses. And, you know, and I imagine them on the other, you know, as a lawyer that mostly does a lot of contract reading, I imagine there's been a lot of letters going back and forth referring to the force majeure clauses. How difficult has that been for you?
So I tell you, it's been a process as it relates to, sure, the lawyers need to do what they do best, and which is they protect us. Our county attorneys are tremendous, by the way. You know, they protect us, and the cruise lines, they have also great lawyers that they protect the cruise lines. Now, at the end of the day, what we are doing is, like the chairwoman said, right? We, and the mayor has said many times, Mayor Jimenez has said many times, we're partners with the cruise lines. We're in it through good times, and now that they're going through a bad time, we're with them through bad times. The Port of Miami and this community, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Madam Chair, no, we've been benefiting from the presence of the cruise lines in this community, and I'm talking tens of thousands of jobs for the last 50, 60 years. And now we're seeing a little blip, and this is the time to show, like no other port in the state of Florida, that we are true partners. One of the actions that the board and the mayor have taken is to waive the late berth fees while the ships are docked alongside here, while they're not sailing for any revenue purposes. I can tell you that has been an incredible action by this county commission, by this mayor, and has been received incredibly by the cruise line. No other port in the country has done that. And again, one of the reasons why we are able to do that is because we have the financial wherewithal to go through these turbulent times. So like Lester said, they're weathering the storm at the airport. We're weathering the storm here. As it relates directly to your question, sure, they've the majority of them have issued force majeure letters, and so have we, because we also have some commitments that we made as part of those transactions to them to build certain infrastructure to accommodate the larger vessels that are still planned to come here in 2022, 2023. So, and at the end of the day, these are our partners. They are people that sit across the table, and we're going to negotiate what is in the best interest of the county, what is in the best interest of them, for them on their part. But at the end of the day, it needs to be something that works out for both parties. And that is what we've been in conversations with our mayor and with our chairwoman. And we're hoping to bring something back to the board for to the committee for the chairwoman and her colleagues' consideration in July, beginning to address some of what the shortfalls will be. The MAGs that are established in these contracts, the minimum annual guarantees, don't get finalized until the end of September, because that's the end of our fiscal year. So depending on what those MAGs are actually going to end up being, the negotiation is a little bit different, right? But now we know that they're not going to sail at least until September 15th. So we can start wrapping up that element of the conversation. What else has the port done? We're not just going ahead and tapping into our reserves. That's going to be a very, very small component of the overall effort that the port has done since March of this year. We froze all vacancies. We eliminated all overtime. We reduced all of our marketing expenses. We're taking advantage of a lower interest rates on our variable debt. We've eliminated some rebate programs. And I got to tell you, I have to give it to the staff, Port Miami staff. They've done an incredible job watching the budget. And we have many people, you drive around that just say, thanks for having a job for us, right? And that's a countywide effort, and I share that with the efforts of our chairwoman. But I have to tell you, it's through all challenges you find opportunities, and we're finding those.
I mean, listen, it's a great time
But Juan did more than that. They terminated the business travel. They deferred the non-essential capital improvement projects. They also did the suspension of non-essential general expenditures and the elimination or adjustment of the cargo rebate and cruise incentive program. All that together mitigates the revenue impacts that the port have had. And then it creates a balance with the increasing cargo that even the pandemic is gearing to, because we need more medical supplies, we need more medications, we need a lot more of that. So they took the steps at the early stage, together with the labor fees at Port Miami, the waiver of them, to create that balance. So at the end, the recovery, once they start, is one step at a time, but it's better. So I have to give it to them that they took all the proper steps at the beginning. And that is, for us, cargo is for us and for Latin American and for the Caribbean and the interchange is very important. And that is keeping the balance together with all those things that he missed to say some, and I wanted to bring it up to the public of all they did.
Well, I mean, listen, I think that Juan makes a good point. It's the opportunity to let our partners know that we will work with them, right? I mean, this is not an opportunity to be heavy-handed, or, you know, say the section 2.3, one of the lies says this and we're going to enforce it. It's just the worst possible time because everyone's under such dire circumstances. And imagine, Lester, for you too, right? I mean, you know, maybe not because, I mean, to a different extent, maybe you can elaborate on that.
So yeah, sure. So in addition to the things that Juan has mentioned, we did the same thing, right? And I will repeat a statement that Juan made, which is early on, we made it clear that, look, we are partners. We both benefit when things are going great, and when things are not going great, we both have to work together so that we all survive. We were the first airport that had the Board of County Commissioners under the sponsorship of Commissioner Sosa to approve a relief plan. Forget about the federal program. The federal program came much later. We had a relief plan already in the books that gave immediate relief to the airlines, that was unmatched by any other airport, not just in Florida, but in the US. And we gave immediate relief, full relief, to the concessionaires and all the companies that are small businesses and local businesses operating at this airport. So we made a commitment early on to say, we're all gonna hurt. We have to figure out how do we survive. And then we had the CARES Act that came in and helped the airline industry. But that was in addition to the steps that were already been taken to cut our costs and also eliminate costs to the operators at this airport so that we could make it easier for them to bear this very difficult moment. And I am a firm believer, as Juan is, and really I know that Madam Chairwoman, who's going to sponsor an extension of those relief programs. So we know that it's not over and we need to do more. So we've made a very clear message out to the community and to the US corporate world that we understand. And those commitments that are made, I will tell you, and then I know that Juan has mentioned this repeatedly as well too, and the airlines have said it, did not go unnoticed by corporate CEOs that are not based potentially here in Miami. So people around the world are seeing what we're doing, and that commitment and that sacrifice is gonna bear fruit when the business comes back.
Let me ask you, Lester, because
Roland, I missed some.
give me 1 second because I want to know more about the legislation. But let me ask him one thing, and then I'll go right to you, Lester. So and excuse my ignorance, but when people first arrive until they get to the actual, and then they go through the TSA, what's your role in making sure that people are in fact healthy?
So that's a very good question, because while the airport is owned by the county, we have federal agencies that govern how an airport is run, right? So you still have the Board of County Commissioners establishing policies, but there's a point in the process that the federal government dictates what needs to be done. So we were early on, that's why we took this step of you must wear masks, social distancing. Again, the first airport that actually had a laid out plan for social distancing and communication signs all over the place. The acrylic glass. So when you walk into that airport, you must wear a mask. And we just recently made it enforceable by the police department, as well as our basically our terminal staff, to ensure enforcement. Because we don't want one airline to say you have to wear a mask and another airline to say you don't have to wear a mask, and you create confusion. Mm-hmm. So every time the mayor has issued an executive order that has been ratified by the Board of County Commissioners, we have applied that same order to the airport, just like Juan is doing it to the seaport, so that the residents are hearing one message. You got to wear a mask, you got to have social distancing, and you got to make sure that you follow the protocols. There's hand sanitations all over the airport to make sure that the same things you're hearing, you're going to also be doing at the airport.
I apologize, Chairwoman. Maybe you can respond to if you wanted to, but also with respect to the extension of the legislation that Lester mentioned.
The plan relief that was approved, and let me tell you, we need to clarify that the TSA, the guidelines that they have to follow are the federal guidelines, not ours. Although we all try to work together with all the different rules that we have for the protection of the public. But the financial relief plan that Mr. Sola worked together, and I was glad to sponsor again, is for passenger and cargo airlines that defer the monthly rent payments and other related charges or interest charges to help and to enhance the cargo opportunities for operators contracted to pay rent, the MAG and the percentage fee. We waive some of those fees, and for all concessionaires, car rentals, and operators that we waive the MAG monthly payment and other related fees, and that's what we need so they can continue and they can move on. And that was the plan that was presented, and that was the plan that I sponsored at the request and that my colleagues approved in general, and it's the one that we hope, right, Mr. Sola, that we can enhance and we can continue so we can keep moving with a balance in all those financials, helping everybody. That helps keep people employed. The employments are very important in our community. By doing this at MIA, by doing that at the port, we create the opportunity to keep the jobs alive and to keep people working and being able to bring and pay rent and pay food for the family, and doesn't create a bigger dependency on the taxpayers.
No, and what you've identified is the most difficult part of this, right? Is trying to make sure people stay employed and safe, because, you know, once again, they'll be safe, but there's no jobs, right? You know, where exactly are we heading? So it's a really very difficult situation. I admire the work that you're doing. Do you feel that there's more that the county commission can do to help Lester and Juan in their jobs right now?
Believe me that we trust them because they know their business, and when they need support, the commission is there and the mayor to listen to them and to work together. Right now, the plans moving forward with all the guidelines, and as we see the numbers going up, we have to take bigger precautions, but we cannot delay the time to plan for the future. We have to start asking ourselves, are the cruise lines going to start with 50% of the people only in the ships? Are they going to eliminate buffet and put up something that will protect not having open food? And then the guidelines to have a mask inside, the guidelines that the newest ships have the opportunity to close the air ducts and then clean them every very short amount. If I remember correctly, it's every 6 hours, right, Mr. Curriba, something like that. That creates the opportunity to have antiviral, antibacterial and everything. And then in the airplanes, I have learned from Mr. Sola the kind of refrigeration that they have, that it's very constant, meaning that if all the seats are totally clean and the people are wearing their masks and they don't remove them, then the question becomes, let's explain to the people where the risks are. If you remove your mask, if you start touching everything or touching other people, but if you don't, then let's let them know how safe it's gonna be. So they have to have a separation in the airplanes and in the ships at the same time, moving forward. So people can start gaining confidence again, because after being in the house locked down for so long, there are some people that really need to go somewhere, because our mental stability is very important for everyone. Am I right or wrong, Mr. Sola, Mr. Curila? That's what I have learned from both of you.
Yeah, Madam Chair, and I'll speak to the airplane. So and oftentimes we go around and it's going to be about education. So people are always concerned about the air inside of an airplane, but the modern day airplanes are not recirculating 100% of the air, right? But in your house and in your office building, the majority of the air is actually recirculated. Where in an airplane, only 20% of the air is recirculated, and that 20% of the air that's recirculated is going through HEPA filters, hospital grade filters that you're not going to be seeing in your house or in an office building. So that education with the cleaning that's taking place before every flight, the fumigation of every airplane at both at night and the daytime to make sure that everything that can be infected of someone is going to be taken care of. That education is going to become part of the new normal as people are then reintroduced and find the confidence once again to be able to fly.
Lester, let me, and maybe you can educate me. So you're saying it's a lot safer than people think, though, obviously, because I think that the thought on the streets is that planes are very dangerous, and you know, you're stuck in there with a bunch of people with the same air. But that doesn't seem to be the case at all, based on what you've just said, what you just told me.
No, that is in fact the case. The modern day airplane, I mean, you're going from aviation is a relatively young industry, right? So the previous airplanes recirculated the majority of the air. The airplanes today do not do that. In fact, it's bringing in the majority of the air that's in the cabin is new air every 20 to 30 minutes. And the only portion that's being recirculated is 20 to a maximum of 30%. And that recirculated air is going through a HEPA filter, a filter that you're not going to find in your home, in all likelihood, or in your place of business, in a mall or other places. So that education, that thought is what's going to have to be changed for the industry to gain more popularity amongst basically travelers. But I know Juan's obviously the cruise lines are doing similar work as well too.
And Mr. Sola, remember that refrigeration, talking about that, part of the reason why cargo is doing so well at MIA is due to the new cargo refrigeration that we all invested in. And this is very important that everyone knows. And then now we can tell you, Roland, that at the last commission meeting, at the request of the mayor, Mr. Sola, we sponsored the CARES Act, $207 million for MIA that requires to keep people employed through December. And that is very important so we don't have people without jobs out there.
That's fascinating stuff. Thank you for that. And thank you for the legislation. I think, once again, I mean, I think people need some reassurance and some positive news in today's world where it just seems that it's all negative. You know, Juan, in sort of preparing for today's webinar, I did a little bit of search on ports generally, and I noticed that one of the things, a McKinsey report talked about automation, and automation is the future of ports internationally. Is that progress of automation going on in Port Miami?
No, absolutely, Roland, and it's both on the cruise and the cargo side. One of the projects that the commission approved, which in effect is allowing us to grow on the cruise side, is a cargo project. It's a cargo project where we are identifying a set number of acres within one of the container yards that's going to allow them to stack containers higher and wider, thus reducing their footprint. And the only way that works is by acquiring more automated equipment. And this is a PPP. That equipment is being purchased by the private operator, but at the same time, it's not going to reduce the number of jobs, which is very important here at the Port of Miami, and also with the ILA, the International Longshoremen Association, which is the union that works the great majority of the container terminals along the East Coast and the Gulf Coast of the United States. But automation is key. And but I would like to go back to a little bit with in terms of education. Education, just like Lester was, and Lester has he always one-ups me because he knows more, right? He also has like a minor in NASA technology and refrigeration engineering. But the way I look at some of this is, I grew up in Peru, and when I grew up in Peru, we would get in a car and never bother with the seatbelt. The seatbelt was decoration. Move to this country and you start hearing the messages: seatbelt save lives, seatbelt save life. Then it becomes the law, right? And then automakers almost make the seatbelt automatic, right? And before you know it, you're always wearing your seatbelt. So I think we're going to see, you know, and I somewhat make light of this in terms of how easy it is, right, to educate people, and maybe it takes a little bit of time. So when you get on a cruise ship, you know, right, you know what the conditions will be. The crew fans will tell you what the new steps are, what the new protocols are, right? They, you know, you wear your mask if you're within 6 feet, right? They may have different seatings for the dinner, like that chairwoman was saying. Maybe you don't go to the buffet table. Maybe there's no more buffets, right? The air conditioning systems on the new ships will be much better than those that were built 25, 30 years ago. And those that will be built in the future, those that are now in the shipyards are, believe me, they're going to be adjusting to this new normal. So all of that is taking place. And again, I tie that also to the genesis of your question, which was automation. So automation is key, but I would like to be very clear. Automation does not necessarily mean getting rid of jobs, right? Automation, it means just making things better many, many times.
And efficiency. I mean, listen, and I will tell you candidly, I was a little concerned about the cruise line industry, just because it's such a major part of our economy down here. And, you know, people have to get back in planes to go back to school, to visit their family, you know, to travel long distances, but they don't have to decide to get on a ship. And so I was heartened to see that a lot of the numbers from a lot of the cruise line industries show people have started to at least start registering or planning on going on cruise lines. Please, go ahead.
Roland, I'm sorry, I'm sorry to cut you off, but people are booking. If you hear from the lines, Q1 of 2021, the numbers are going through the roof. Even for the last quarter of 2020, there's some solid numbers. And like we were saying earlier, it really is the best bang for the buck. People love their cruising. And now going back to the point that we were discussing 5-10 minutes ago, it will be about education and putting out the word and why is it safe, and the different measures that we can all take as a community, as an industry, to make sure that it's a successful return to the waters.
Lester, I mean, I think we have about 5 minutes left, and so I'd like to give everyone an opportunity sort of to give a last word. I mean, what are the things that you see coming in the next 6 months? You know, what recommendations, what advice do you give our members, and how in light of how difficult your job is right now?
So I will tell you that the recovery, right, which is what everyone loves to guess. It's going to be a year, it's going to be 6 months, it's going to be 3 years. This industry is a resilient industry. People have to travel, and there's no safer or more efficient way to travel a long distance than to get on an airplane. So what's going to make the difference, what's going to shorten that period, is how good are we as an industry in educating our customers, and how good are we in turning into those promises that we're making as to how we're going to make it safer, are good at delivering on those promises. And it is going to be hard to bet against an industry that has seen and has had to reinvent itself so many times in its young life. So I'm an optimist. I believe that we'll be up and running faster than what a lot of people are guessing. And I see it in the numbers. Our lowest numbers at one point during this pandemic was 3,500 passengers in an entire day. We normally do about 115,000 passengers. Well, just a few weeks have passed, we're already at 27,000 passengers. So those numbers are going to continue to grow. And 27,000 passengers with the same volume of flights, which means that there's more planes flying. So in July is going to be really a deciding point as airlines decide to add more flights. How good are we as an industry, totally together, the federal government, the local government, the airlines, and our TSA partners, in ensuring that safety of the flying public? And I think we'll deliver.
Thank you. Juan, I'm going to give the chairwoman Sosa the last word, but if you have anything in that regard, I would love to hear it.
Juan.
Juan, do you want to give it last words?
Just to, again, thank you to the chamber. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Lester. This is a resilient industry. And I have to tell you, when we were building, and we still are, we're still building, we're moving forward with the Virgin Voyages terminal. That's something that had to happen. We couldn't not do it. The ships will be here. The ships are coming. So that is moving forward. But just like people would ask me, what's the secret to the growth? And I said, incredible support from your elected officials. We've had that. We continue to have it. And the way out of this is, the only way out of this is with the support of our elected officials. Thank you to our mayor. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to our board. And thank you to our staff, incredible staff. Thank you.
Chairwoman Sosa, I will tell you that I'm a bit old-fashioned, and these two gentlemen, incredibly bright, incredibly competent, but I will tell you that I'm a bit old-fashioned, and I like to see nice people, you know, in that role, and it's probably the exception rather than rule, but in this case, it's the rule with Lester and Juan. So I congratulate you on that, and I think everyone would want to hear your thoughts and what you see in the future.
Thank you, and I want to thank all of you, Lillian, Roland, all of the members, and for giving us the opportunity to do that. This is what I call hope. Yes, we're going through a pandemic. We're going through rough times. Apparently, it happens every 100 years, but we hope we can get over this. I am not very into automation because one of the reasons why you book for a cruise is because of the service that you receive from those human beings that make you feel great, that customer service that exists over there. And at the same at the plane, their plans, the way they work with the airlines and with the cruise lines. Giving a big applause to Mr. Kurila for all the terminals that are being built and the ones that are gonna be built in the future. And to keep that moving is what is gonna keep Miami-Dade County moving forward. And because of a lot of people like all of you and the ones that are listening and part of this, that you all have a little bit to do to keep moving forward. And working together is the only way we're gonna get over this. May God bless you all.
Thank you very much. And like I said, I can see their affinity for you, Vice Chairwoman. I mean, you could tell. And by the way, I think Juan, you owe me, I'll let you get the last word on Lester. So I think you're going to owe me a dinner or a lunch in the future.
I'm included.
No,
I'm included there.
Listen, once again, I want to thank our media sponsors, Univision. They've been fantastic for this time period. I would be remiss not to mention Florida Power and Light. They've been fantastic with us as well. And so, Lily, I think you're
Yes, time to close. Well, this is perfect timing. This wasn't Hispanic time, I guess. Wow. So thank you. Oh my God, Vice Chair Rebecca Sosa, dear friend of so many years. Lester, you're amazing, and so is Juan. I mean, what can I say about you guys? And FPL for presenting this webinar, and Univision and Roland. My gosh, my hat's off to you. You've done a great job as a moderator, soon to be chairman of the board. And we have an upcoming webinar this Friday. I mean, we really work hard. So this Friday is the PPP. So just want to announce it to all of those that are, well, we have a lot of participants here today. And so that'll be on Friday at 2 p.m. And it's gonna be a very nice, interesting event because it's how to be forgiven. So let's see, because you got the PPP loan, but you know you have to follow certain rules in order so that you don't have to pay it back. And you want it to be a grant and you want to keep it. So that's on Friday. So join us, and every week we have something for the South Florida Hispanic Chamber of Commerce members. So thank you all for participating, and besito todo mundo, and all good. I know with us was Terry Arbesu. She wanted me to give some good news. Oh my gosh. What did she say? Roland, you have it there, or do I have it? She's with the mayor's office.
no, I have it as
I
well.
have it. She
Yep.
said I had to announce this. Oh, she's on the call. On behalf of the mayor, Mayor Jimenez, the daily report, there are a lot more testing numbers of positive, but it's a small percentage. Average age of positive is now 18 to 34. So she wanted me to share this with you. She represents them on all the health and human services. So anyway, but we're positive here. Hey, in reality, we're positive, and everything was very good. So thank you so very much, all of you, and our members. We'll see you on Friday. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Wait, Lester, let me call Ali. Lester, let's make sure que estamos solos para el programa. Ali, yeah, can you come here just to make sure that nobody's on here? So we can do the business minute. Thank you.